On the starboard side of the bridge deckhouse was the log room, which held the critical record-keeping information for the ship's crossings. But as with many spaces on United States, the inclusion of a dedicated room for the ship's logs was rather unusual. The bridge wings were crucial for docking and departure because they provided a fine, unobstructed view down the length of the ship's hull. United States bridge wings also have a polaris each, the kind of simplified compass used for maintaining bearing. United States was fitted with searchlights on either side of the bridge, really only for use. The DF loop was a crucial bit of navigation kit. It helped lock onto shore-based radio signals in any direction, which could help triangulate a detailed position on the map. It was especially useful alongside radar off the notoriously foggy US East Coast. These big mushroom vents fed air down to the fan rooms below, and drew fresh air into the ship to be run through the miles of trunking for cabins, public rooms, and machinery spaces. This section of deckhouse held engine room exhaust passages and more electric fans which supplied fresh air and draft where it was needed far below. Behind here was another fan room, but just inboard of that was the first-class children's playroom, where kids could spend their time playing with toys, colouring, and doing crafts. In here were bathrooms for both men and women, in case anybody needed a quick break in between their relaxing on deck. Nestled into the deckhouse here are two bathrooms, or heads, both port and... These doors led down to one of the main tourist class stairways and gave tourist class passengers their own private promenade beneath the first funnel. The number 2 hatch here was used for loading general cargo, baggage, and the ship's stores. The shaft of the cargo hatch led down to the big electric winches scattered around the deck here would be rigged to the cargo derricks so they could swing. The number 1 cargo hatch led down to the biggest hold in the ship and was used mainly for general cargo. Down in the number 1 cargo hold was space for storing automobiles, something a car-centric post-war American society would have deeply valued, although getting your car across the Atlantic certainly can't have been cheap. This door led to a crew stairwell that gave them access to the promenade deck forward of the breakwater, a small space but still one where they could come for some fresh air or a smoke. The trunking and vents on top of the deck houses at the bow here helped feed fresh air into the tourist class and crew spaces below. Keeping it off the decks protected them. The crew open promenade was used mainly by sailors and stewards who were berthed in the bow, but when the weather was bad, the deck would have been unusable and even dangerous. The forward aspect of the crew deckhouse here had a clever double purpose. Although it held a fan room and other crew spaces, it also mounted a large breakwater that would cut big waves in half if they came over the bow and direct them over the side of the ship and away from the cargo handling equipment and passenger spaces. The small deckhouse here contained a fan room on either side so fresh air could be sucked in and sent down to the crew and tourist class accommodations below. The cargo holds had to be ventilated too. Stagnant air in an enclosed space is extremely hazardous and can even prove fatal. This extension of the forward bulkhead on the sun deck mainly held the machinery room for the tourist class elevator below it, but the port side also held the bathroom for first class cabin S12 right behind here. On the starboard side of the bridge deckhouse was the log room, which held the critical record-keeping information for the ship's crossings. But as with many spaces on United States, the inclusion of a dedicated room for the ship's logs was rather unusual.